Hello, my crafty friends. It's me, Lisa, the DIY Diva, and I have a bunch of brand new Dollar Tree Christmas crafts for you to make for this holiday season.
It all just goes away. The things I plan to say, oh baby.
So I found this picture frame at Dollar Tree. I haven't seen these very often, but this was the perfect size of frame for the craft I want to do. This tile from Dollar Tree almost is exactly the same size. It wasn't quite, so I did have to cut it down just a little bit. Now it does have a self-sticking backing, so I attached it to the cardboard, which is the back of the frame, and then I cut it down to size, and then to make sure that it was going to stay in place, I did use a little bit of Dollar Tree wood glue. And then I just smoothed that glue down. Then I came back with some burnt umber paint and I painted the entire tile with the burnt umber paint. And once that had dried, I came back with some folk art chalk paint, and this is in white, and I painted the entire tile with the white paint because I did this backwards. I wanted to have the white be the background and then the burnt umber be the accent. So I went ahead and painted everything with the white chalk paint. Next, I came back with a smaller paintbrush and I applied a little bit of the burnt umber onto all of the raised accents of the tile. These tiles are so much fun to craft with. I'm sure you've seen other people use them, but there's so many things that you can do with these tiles, especially during Christmas. And once I was finished doing a little bit of accents on the raised portions of the tile, I came back with a chip brush and I lightly coated the entire tile. I had these pine branches that were left over from last Christmas, so I just cut off little individual branches of the pine, and I'm going to make this a wreath. So I took those individual branches and just hot glued them onto the tile in a circle pattern. So this is going to be the beginning of my wreath. I did come back with some extra branches to make my wreath a little bit fuller and a little bit thicker. I wasn't worried if it was perfect. Sometimes I think it looks better if there's a little bit of variation. I don't want a perfectly round wreath. And I wanted it to look like it had freshly snowed on my wreath, so I painted the wreath with a little bit of white chalk paint. Next, I made a more primitive or rustic style bow, and I glued that to the top center of my wreath. I did come back with some extra loops of that ribbon just to make my bow a little bit fuller. So even if you're not perfect with making these bows, all you have to do is add a few more loops to the bow. Then I had these jingle bells from Hobby Lobby from last Christmas. They have a rusty appearance to them, so I didn't have to enhance them at all. And I tied a jingle bell to a piece of jute twine, and then I took another jingle bell and did the same thing. Next, I took both of those pieces of jute twine and tied them together so my jingle bells are connected. And then I used a little bit of hot glue to secure the jingle bells right underneath the bow. And for the finishing touch, I added a small pine cone. Now, I didn't show you, but I did paint the frame of the picture. And once everything was dry, I just put the picture frame back on top and secured it to the back. And look at that. This is so pretty and it was so easy to make. I love how you can see the raised pattern of the tile on the backing of this. I think it's so pretty. For this project, I took a package of the bamboo skewers and one of the cutting boards that you hang up that has all the writing all over it, but I want this to be more like a cutting board. So I started by putting some wood glue all over the cutting board, and I only put the glue about 1/4 of the way up. Then I started securing the bamboo skewers to the cutting board. Now, at first I started by just doing 1 or 2 skewers at a time. But as I worked with this, I found it easier to do multiples of the skewers because that kind of helps to keep everything in line as I was going up the cutting board. And even if some of that wood glue gets onto the front of the skewers, it really won't matter unless you're staining this. For my cutting board, I'm going to just be using burnt umber paint. That's like my favorite paint for crafting. So it doesn't really matter if the wood glue gets onto the front of the skewers. I worked my way all the way up to the top of the cutting board. And then I cut pieces of the skewers so that they were smaller right at the top. I didn't worry about the hole. I went ahead and covered that up. And then I allowed this to dry overnight. Now, what I didn't show you was I took it out into my garage and I cut it with my scroll saw. But if you don't have a scroll saw, you could use a jigsaw as well. And once everything was cut and sanded so the edges are all smooth, then I came back with some burnt umber paint and some water. So I just painted the entire cutting board with the burnt umber paint. And the water really helps to give different shades or different levels of lightness and darkness to the cutting board so it doesn't all look the same. If I wanted it a little bit lighter, I just added a little bit more water. And if I wanted it a little bit darker, I just added a little bit more paint. This was pretty much my cutting board. So I came back with some ribbon to make a bow, and I just secured that to the top section of the cutting board. And I do like that, but it does need a little bit of something extra. And I found this beaded garland at Walmart and I really liked it. So what I decided I wanted to do was make a bead strand, like a farmhouse bead strand. So I cut it down to the size that I wanted it to be, and then I added some tassels to the ends. And look at that. Now I have a very pretty bead strand that I can use for my holiday decorating. And I did decide to go ahead and add some greenery just to the top of the cutting board because I like to add greenery to everything. You don't necessarily have to do that, but I think it gives it just a little bit of something extra. And now I can take my Christmas bead strand and just drape it around the cutting board. And here is the finished project. This is the cutting board along with the bead strand. And I don't know about you, but I love working smarter and not harder. So finding small beaded garland like this and turning it into a strand of beads for Christmas, to me, that is a genius and simple idea that anyone can do. Now for this project, I have a Dollar Tree votive holder, and what I've been doing is wrapping yarn all the way around it. And I'm going to make a Christmas tree with this. And I had this yarn from Hobby Lobby that I've had forever, and I really just wanted to use it up. So I thought it would be fun to cover up a votive holder and basically turn this into a container to hold a Christmas tree. And I just worked my way all the way around the votive holder with my glue gun and the yarn. And I made sure to cover up the top edge of the votive holder as well. I don't want to see any of that coming through. I just want to see that yarn.
Let's go outside. The snow is falling down and every child is having so much fun. The snowman is twice the size as me with the smile.
Then I came back with some floral foam. I think this is like a dry foam. This stuff is really fun to work with. And I cut it down to the size it needed to be to fit inside of the votive holder. Then I took more of those pine branches and I just stuck them inside of it. So my idea is to make this look like a little Christmas tree. I wanted to keep this simple, so I didn't add any ornaments or anything like that, but I could see where that would be really pretty too. If you added some ornaments, maybe a star, even some lights to the tree itself, I think it would be really pretty. But I wanted simple, so mine is just a simple Christmas tree. And I just kept adding extra pieces of the branches onto the tree. I added some to the base as well to make it look a little bit fuller at the bottom. I don't want it to look like pine branches that have just been shoved down into foam. I wanted to give it a little bit of a shape so that it looks like this was intentional. Next, I found some really pretty paper. This is literally just paper that had a fun pattern on it. So I cut a wavy edge all the way around it. And then I used a snowflake sticker that I got from Hobby Lobby in this big book of stickers. And what I'm going to do is fold that over and secure it with hot glue so that it looks like it's a tag for the bottom of my Christmas tree. And this was so easy, and I think it looks really nice. It's very simple, and this is something you could definitely do multiple times with different colors of yarn or even different styles of Christmas trees. Now, I know you guys have seen this, but this is my first time ever doing it. I have always wanted to do the Epsom salt and put that onto glass. So what I did was I took Epsom salt from the Dollar Tree and then I took some iridescent glitter and I mixed that together because I want to have a little bit of bling or sparkle with my fake snow. And I just blended that together into a big mason jar. Then I took a large mason jar that I got from Dollar Tree and I painted it with Mod Podge. And then I just sprinkled my glitter and Epsom salt concoction onto the jar. I did pat it down a little bit because I really want to make sure that that Epsom salt and the glitter is going to stick to the jar. I also wanted to make sure that the Epsom salt mixture was all the way around to the bottom, so that's why I dipped the jar into the Epsom salt mixture. You can definitely see the glitter in with the Epsom salt. I also did it with a smaller mason jar as well. Then I took the same ribbon that I used for my cutting board and I glued that around the top edge of the jars. I don't want to see the threads of the jar top. That's why I decided to use the ribbon. And once I had that ribbon attached, then I just took some jute twine and tied it around the neck of the jar. And I made a jute bow that I could put onto the little knot that I had created. And to finish it up, I took a tiny little pine cone and I just secured that with hot glue right underneath the center of the bow. I also found these really cute tiny little pine cones with some red pip berries, and I individually glued a couple of those snow-covered pine cones right above the larger pine cone. I thought it would look pretty with those red berries, so I put a couple of red berries on as well. And here are my beautiful, beautiful candle holders. Aren't they pretty? Now the small one was too small to have the tea light candle go in, so I just tipped it upside down and put it on top. But I think they turned out really pretty. If you haven't tried these yet, you've got to try it. It is such an easy but beautiful decoration. Now I found this mason jar. It's like a tiny mason jar at Dollar Tree. And then I found these peppermint candies at Hobby Lobby, which are 50% off. So I think they were around $1.50. But what I want to do is just take these peppermints and I want to make my mason jar look like it's full of peppermint candies. So I cut off all of those individual little peppermints and I cut off the ends where it was hanging on that ornament. And then I just tucked them into the mason jar. Then I came back with some red ribbon. This was wire edged ribbon, but I didn't need it to be wire edged. And I folded it in half and then I hot glued it so that it's going to be half the size. Then I secured that ribbon to the top edge of the lid of the jar. Like the other crafts that I've been sharing with you, this is a really easy and simple decoration idea that you can make using stuff that you find very affordably at Dollar Tree as well as Hobby Lobby. And speaking of Hobby Lobby, I found these awesome ornaments. I think they're window clings, but I really liked this one and I like the pattern, but it's too large for my lid of my mason jar. So what I did was just measured it and cut it down so that it would fit on the top of the mason jar. And I used a little bit of wood glue just to secure it to the top. And then I used a little bit more ribbon right around the top of the ribbon that I had already placed on because I wanted it to have something a little bit extra. And I really like how it turned out too. Now on my last trip to Dollar Tree, they had some really awesome games and they were in wood boxes. I didn't want it for the game, I wanted it for the box. So I painted the box red and then I came back with some red paint that has a little bit more shine to it. And I just did one coat of that over top of the red paint that was already on the box. And I found this really pretty ornament at Walmart. It was $1.96, I believe. And I just took out the hanger on the top and used a little bit of hot glue to secure it to the wood box. There you go. How easy was that? I also made a smaller bead strand that could either go onto this or just sit in front of it. I really like how simple this sign was to make. I think it's really pretty and it was so easy. See, I told you these projects are very easy to make. I think they look really nice. They don't look like they came from the Dollar Tree, I don't think. Do you? And I think that's one of the reasons why I love crafting with things that I find at the Dollar Tree to make them look even better. If you've enjoyed this video, go ahead and click that subscribe button and click the bell notification. That way you'll get an alert when I have new videos coming out. And I can't wait to see you on Monday for a brand new video.